The city never sleeps, and neither did I that night. Rain hit the window like a ticking clock, counting down to something terrible. I was staring at the skyline, coffee gone cold, when my phone buzzed. Another anonymous text. Check your email. You deserve the truth. My heart sank. I opened it, and there they were, photos. Ethan, my fiancé, kissing Claire, my best friend since college. The betrayal hit like glass shattering in my chest. I couldn't breathe. I scrolled through the pictures again, hoping it was fake, but it wasn't. They were smiling, hand in hand, in the same restaurant where Ethan had proposed to me 6 months ago. I threw my phone on the couch, tears spilling. After everything I gave you, this is what I get? That night, something inside me changed. I didn't scream, I didn't beg, I planned, because I knew something they didn't. Ethan's entire company was built on a lie, and I held the one secret that could destroy them both. The next morning, I stood before the mirror. No more soft eyes, no more weakness. Just focus. You took my love, I whispered to my reflection. Now, I'll take your peace. I opened my laptop, scrolling through files I had saved years ago. Confidential contracts, offshore accounts, money transfers. Ethan never noticed that the girl who loved him was also the one keeping his digital records safe. But now, I'd use them to burn everything he'd built.
You learn quickly what heartbreak does to your brain. For me, it folded into something practical. The first 48 hours after the photos were a fog of autopilot. I canceled wedding phone calls. I moved the flowers out of sight. I pretended at work until the applause for someone else's quarterly win sounded like a hammer on glass. Then I went to my desk, and I did the one thing that never made Ethan suspicious. I opened our shared drive. I'd worked at his firm for 5 years, product operations, so a lot of his work tools were familiar to me. He thought I didn't read through his expense reports or check the rollout notes he left at 2 a.m., but I had. Loving someone and watching how they hide a life are two different studies. The love blinds you. The little habits teach you the architecture of a man. The architecture had cracks. First thing, back everything up. Not dramatic, no midnight shouting. I copied, I encrypted, I made a stack of files and hid them in places he'd never think to look, a dead Dropbox, a printer spooler archive, an encrypted email draft titled Vendor Ushers. I opened old invoices and traced payments. A name kept surfacing. Arden Consulting, a shell that appeared in the company's ledger just before every profitable pivot. Follow the money, the old journalists always say. That's where I started. Second thing, find an ally. Revenge is a solo adrenaline rush in movies. In corporate life, it's a long, ugly negotiation that needs witnesses. I found mine in Maya, a quiet finance analyst who'd been at the company 8 months and who always left her reusable mug at the same meeting room. She was small and swift and hated Ethan's management style the way construction crews hate bad cement. I slid her an encrypted note. Coffee, 8 p.m., confidential. She showed up an hour early, lipstick perfect, not trusting the world either. Don't tell me you're dramatic, she whispered when I slid the thumb drive across the table. Her eyes flicked up, absorbing my face, wet rims, composure tight. You look like someone who just swallowed glass. I want him gone. Not just him, Claire too. They used our private life like a punchline and my career like a broom to sweep under the rug. I have proof Arden Consulting isn't consulting, it's siphoning. I need a clean trail to the bank accounts. I need someone who reads numbers like scripture. Maya didn't blink. I'll run the ledger. If there's smoke, we'll find fire. We worked in unpaid nights. Maya ran queries, and I pulled invoice PDFs. We found a consulting contract signed by Ethan in his own handwriting. Odd language, suspicious clauses, and payments routed through 3 layers of shell accounts, 2 of them offshore. We cross-checked vendors who'd been paid 6 figures for strategic sessions and found ghost deliverables. We found signatures in July that matched the subcontractor who, on LinkedIn, still listed a suburban address and a one-man creative shop that had never handled a 6-figure project. With each small victory, the plan sharpened. We were not going to leak a scandal for clicks. We were going to build a case so ironclad the company couldn't wiggle out with an apology. We wanted restitution, public naming, and the kind of corporate remediation that boards sweat. The third thing, Control the narrative. Ethan's friends and investors were people who loved their reputations. If evidence hit the right desks, audit, the compliance hotline, the board, the company would have to act. But first, insurance. I created a burner email that looked like an internal tip. Unusual payments and shell rotations. Please audit Arden Consulting. Attached, initial vendor mismatch summary. I sent it to the compliance inbox and, careful, CC'd an external accounting watchdog I'd once written to as a customer. Anonymous whistleblowing has weight if you pair it with credible outside eyes. Then came the social step. A private message appeared in our office chat. A screenshot from a dinner a month ago with Ethan and Claire, the two of them laughing with the caption, "New power couple." I received it and watched the cursor spin. The dating life of your ex can be petty. The dating life of your boss's best friend is dangerous. I could have confronted her then, bawled in her face, thrown plates, but that would have been theater, not strategy. Instead, I texted Claire something simple and surgical. I see you look very happy in that photo. Did you and Ethan tell the CFO about Arden's new retainer? Curious how that was signed. The message wasn't an accusation. It was a breadcrumb. Two things happened at once. Claire replied with a patronizing laugh emoji and a non-committal, "It's just business, babe." And in the hours that followed, Ethan started an internal chat thread about a vendor discrepancy, classic damage control. They thought they'd stamped out the spark. They hadn't counted on how careful I'd been. You don't take down a man with a press release. You take him down with patience. Over the course of 2 weeks, I fed compliance targeted notes, upheld plausible deniability, and let my spreadsheets turn the rumor into a problem that could no longer hide as a preferred vendor arrangement. I didn't burn bridges I still needed. HR had to see the documents and think, this was due diligence, not malice. We had 2 completed deliverables by the end of week 3. A forensic accounting packet from Maya that mapped funds to Arden's shell accounts, and a timeline of communications that showed Claire's name on approvals the same week the offshore transfers were initiated. The final piece was behavioral. Witnesses. Vendors who'd been left unpaid started returning my messages when I signed the email as a concerned vendor's relative, telling me about bounced checks and promises unkept. A small law firm agreed to look at the packet pro bono after the paralegal I'd befriended at a holiday mixer recognized one of the shell company names. The plan had weight now. It could sink Ethan with care, or it could ricochet and cut me. That was the truth I had to live with. On a Friday night, when the city smelled like hot pretzels and rain, I sat with a sealed envelope addressed to compliance's chair. Inside was the dossier, forensic ledger, vendor affidavits, copies of emails, and a short cover letter signed by the anonymous burner. Please investigate Arden Consulting's payments for fiscal years 20 to 22. Enclosed is a compiled inquiry. I didn't deliver it myself. I used an evidence courier that guaranteed chain of custody. I watched the tracking number ping my phone and felt what the edge of the knife feels like when you're finally ready to press down. As the courier scanned the delivery confirmation, my phone buzzed. "Ethan, can we talk? I'm at home. Claire. We need to discuss the budget revision Monday." Their messages were innocent on the face of them, ordinary, banal, but in the small quiet of my kitchen, my chest loosened. This was not about revenge theater anymore. It was about setting right a ledger that had been used to hide greed. And yeah, about the hurt, about the stolen engagement and the nights I sold my life for a dream that became someone else's punchline. But more than that, it was about authoring an ending that didn't leave me in the dark. Clutching pictures. Maya texted, "Audit confirmation received. They've put a hold on transfers. Don't breathe it yet, but this is moving." I poured a glass of wine, not to celebrate, but to steady my hands. On the counter lay the photos that had started it all. Ethan and Claire laughing at that table, oblivious. I slid them under a cookbook, not to hide evidence, but to keep a physical reminder of what had been taken. I slept for 3 hours that night, and when I woke, the city had no idea the current of change moving through its heart. Men in suits would start getting calls, boards would start asking awkward questions, and in some small private boardroom, a man who'd once kissed me in the kitchen would realize that his foundation was not concrete, but ledger paper, and that his choices had consequences. The next morning, the first news alert landed on my phone. Company places temporary hold on vendor transfers pending audit. My stomach flipped. I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot, but for the first time since the photos, I felt a small, steady pulse of something else. Possibility.
Monday morning hit like thunder. The office was humming, but not with the usual gossip about weekend brunches or stock performance. Something heavy floated in the air. Fear. Screens flickered with the headline, Arden Consulting under internal investigation. Company launches emergency audit. My heart thudded. I pretended to scroll emails, sipping coffee while watching Ethan's glass office upstairs. He was on the phone, pasting, jaw tight. Claire sat near him, her face drained of color. The king and queen of the company looked suddenly mortal. I waited for the next shoe to drop. By noon, compliance officers were in the building, escorted by security. Meyer texted me discreetly. They're pulling ledgers. Ethan's account access locked. I typed back, stay invisible. No one should connect us yet. She sent a thumbs up emoji, but I could sense her adrenaline from across the floor. By 2 p.m., whispers became wildfire. People in marketing were saying the audit involved millions of dollars. Some said executives might face suspension. Every rumor was a thread from the tapestry I'd woven in silence. Every shocked whisper was a quiet repayment for the nights I cried in that apartment alone. But revenge, real revenge, isn't about chaos. It's about control. That evening I left the office early. The rain started again. Soft at first, then heavy, cleansing. I walked the long way home through Times Square, lights flashing, 1,000 lives rushing by. My reflection in the glass looked almost unrecognizable, sharper, colder, yet strangely alive. Then my phone buzzed. A new number. Riley, it's Detective Harris. We've received documentation linking your name to the audit trail. Are you available to come in for a statement? I froze. I'd used encrypted paths. How did they trace me? Inside the police station, the fluorescent lights hummed like judgment. Harris was kind-eyed, mid-40s, coffee breath, brown skin, short cropped hair. He said, I'm not accusing you, but some of the data leads back to your employee account. Whoever blew this open used access credentials registered under your name. I stayed calm, heart rate steady. I said, I didn't leak anything, but if someone used my access to commit fraud, I'd like to help find them. He smiled faintly. Good answer. I left the station with trembling fingers. The revenge I'd built so carefully had become a living thing, unpredictable, dangerous. Someone had tried to reframe me as the leak. Someone clever. Someone desperate. When I reached my apartment, the door was slightly open. Every instinct screamed danger. I stepped inside. Keys clutched like blades. The lights were on, and on the table sat a bouquet of white lilies. Ethan's old way of apologizing. A note leaned against the vase. We need to talk. Tonight. Don't do something you'll regret. ... -E. I exhaled through my teeth, then quietly turned on my voice recorder. When Ethan arrived, he looked older, the arrogance stripped away, replaced by desperation. His designer suit couldn't hide the panic. Riley, you don't know what you've done. This audit, it's going to ruin everything. Claire's terrified. The board's ready to suspend us. You have to help me fix this. I crossed my arms. Help you? After you betrayed me? After you stole years of my life? He stepped closer. I made mistakes, but you're part of this too. Those files, your access. If this goes public, they'll take you down with us. That was it. The line that snapped something inside me. I leaned forward, voice low and icy. Then I'll burn with you, Ethan, but at least the truth will be ashes around your name. He stared, realizing he'd lost me for good. I turned and walked toward the window, watching rain pour down the city. I whispered, you always said I was too emotional. Turns out, emotions make excellent motivation. Ethan's mask cracked. Fear, disbelief, regret. Then silence. He left without another word, his empire collapsing behind him. That night, I couldn't sleep. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was steady. Strong. The revenge was working, but I sensed something darker waiting. Claire wasn't the kind of woman to go down quietly. She had venom, and I knew she'd use it, and I was ready. Rain lashed against the glass windows of Evelyn Grace's penthouse. Lightning split the sky like an open wound. Inside, Evelyn stood before the mirror, the same mirror where she used to practice her press smiles. But tonight, the reflection staring back at her didn't look like the city's queen. It looked like her own ghost. Her mascara bled. Her lipstick smudged, her empire cracked. She turned sharply when her door buzzed. It was Detective Harris, drenched, holding a single brown envelope. "Someone dropped this off for you," he said grimly. "No sender." Evelyn snatched it. Inside was a photo of her husband, Mason, standing with Claire Monroe in front of Evelyn's old office the night before Evelyn's downfall. The timestamp matched the day she'd been framed. Her hand trembled. He was with her. Detective Harris nodded. "Looks that way. But it gets worse. Mason transferred $2 million into an offshore account that same night. Evelyn's world tilted. So he sold me out for her." The detective hesitated, then said, "Evelyn, there is something you should see." He slid his phone forward. A video loaded. Grainy CCTV footage of Mason meeting the same warehouse men who had once threatened Evelyn's life. It hit her like thunder. Mason was behind everything. Her breath turned jagged. "He tried to have me killed." Lightning flashed again, illuminating the fury in her eyes. "Then he'll die knowing I know." That night, Evelyn dressed in her war armor, sleek black coat, crimson lipstick, hair tied in a razor-sharp bun. She drove to the edge of the industrial district where Mason and Claire's car was parked near a luxury storage facility. Through the glass, she saw them, laughing, drinking champagne. Her champagne, Evelyn whispered to herself. Poetic. She dialed a number on her phone. Rico's. "Everything ready?" "Yes, ma'am." "You sure about this?" Evelyn's gaze didn't waver. "I built this empire. I'll burn it myself if it means justice." She ended the call. Seconds later, the power in the entire block flickered and died. Inside, Mason looked around nervously. "What the hell?" Claire poured another glass, smirking. "Relax, babe. It's just the rain." Then boom! The storage building's alarm system shrieked to life, metal doors slamming shut automatically. Evelyn walked through the main gate, bathed in emergency red light, every step echoing with purpose. "Mason!" she shouted. Her voice bounced off the steel walls. "Did you miss me?" Mason froze. "Evelyn?" Claire backed away, panic rising. "What's she doing here?" Evelyn's eyes glinted in the red light. "You sold me out, Mason. You wanted me dead. You took everything. But you forgot. I taught you everything you know." Mason tried to calm her. "Listen, it wasn't personal." Evelyn's laugh cut through the air like glass. "Oh, I know. It was business. So this is just business too." Suddenly, Rico's voice came over the speaker system. "5 minutes, boss." Mason looked around, realizing she had control of the whole building. Evelyn stepped closer, whispering coldly, "You built this place with my money, so I'll let it end with yours." Then she turned and walked out through the rain, her silhouette framed in red light. Behind her, Mason screamed, "Evelyn, wait!" But the heavy steel doors sealed shut. She stood outside, watching the building from her car as thunder rolled. 3 minutes later, the warehouse erupted in a firestorm, orange flames reflecting in her dark eyes. Her lips barely moved as she whispered to herself, "Justice served," with interest. In the rearview mirror, she saw the city lights blinking through the rain. Her city, the one she would reclaim. She drove away slowly, the rain washing the smoke off her windshield. The ghost in the mirror was gone. Only Evelyn Grace remained. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, cameras, flashes, the whole city seemed to be watching. At the center of it all stood Clara, 30-year-old woman with olive skin, wavy brown hair tied back, wearing a fitted navy suit. She looked calm, but her heart hammered like a war drum. This was the day everything she'd endured would finally mean something. Across from her, Nathan Blackwell, the man who'd stolen her company, framed her for embezzlement and ruined her life, sat with his expensive lawyer, pretending confidence. But beneath his mask, his eyes flickered. He knew what Clara had brought today. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Then, the truth began to unfold. Clara's attorney, Maya, 35, African-American woman with short locks and a steady gaze, played the hidden recording. Nathan's own voice echoed through the room, admitting to destroying evidence, laughing about how the board will believe anything I say about her. Gasps filled the air. Reporters scribbled furiously. Nathan turned pale. The judge's gavel struck. Order! Clara watched the man who'd crushed her pride now shrink under the weight of his own words. Her pulse slowed, her palms unclenched. Nathan's lawyer whispered frantically, but it was over. The jury foreman stood. We find the defendant guilty. Cheers erupted. Maya hugged Clara tightly, whispering, You did it, girl! Tears streamed down Clara's cheeks. But they weren't of sorrow. They were of freedom. After the trial, Clara walked outside into the bright daylight of downtown Chicago. The cold wind hit her face, but she smiled for the first time in years. Cameras surrounded her. Voices asked for comments. She simply said, I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. Later that night, she sat on her apartment rooftop, overlooking the glittering skyline. Her cat, Willow, brushed against her arm. She poured herself a glass of wine, turned on soft jazz, and whispered, Mom, I hope you're watching. I'm finally free. Down below, the city roared, alive, noisy, endless, but Clara felt peace. In the distance, Nathan was escorted into a black prison van, his empire crumbling behind him. Justice had been served, not by power, not by wealth, but by resilience. Clara closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The pain that once ruled her now dissolved into something purer, strength. A message popped on her phone. Clara, the board wants to meet you. They're reinstating your position. She smiled faintly. No thanks, she murmured. Some thrones aren't worth sitting on twice. As dawn began to rise, her face glowed golden in the first light. The scars of betrayal had healed, replaced by something unbreakable, dignity. Her story wasn't of revenge anymore. It was redemption. She leaned back, whispered to herself, You can destroy everything I had, but never who I am. And for the first time, Chicago felt like home again. The end.